Hello, Becky here. Welcome back to my channel. I am coming to you from the future to talk a little bit about Summerween 2024. I ended up vlogging a lot for Summerween and never ended up putting up a video because from what I remember, the editing just went wrong every chance that it could, and I got frustrated and I gave up. Now, fast forward an entire year, and I was working on my 2025 vlogs, which I got both of those out, so definitely go check those out if you want to know what I read for Summerween. Last year, my goal was to read all the Riley Sager books that I hadn't yet read, including Middle of the Night. And I wanted to do a full-on spoilery vlog for Final Girls, Survive the Night, and I never got to The House Across the Lake. That one never came in on time. I feel like there was another one. And then Middle of the Night I read, and that was no spoilers for that one because it was the new book of 2024. So I went back and I was editing this vlog again, and all I have are clips for talking about Survive the Night. That's it. I found a couple of clips talking about the Final Girls, but I'm not going to add that because my vlog is already so long and I want to try and keep it under an hour, but it's hard when you're vlogging for a week and you're reading 3-4 books kind of thing. So I'm just gonna leave it with me talking about Survive the Night. That's it. I realized while editing this vlog, instead of just talking about what the books are and what's happening in the book and how I'm feeling about the book and the plot and the characters and stuff, I end up picking out things that make me think of things in real life, different situations, different things that are happening in the world, in my life, whatever it is. I read something in the book and then I want to discuss more around that, I guess. I feel like maybe that's not what people want out of booktube. They just want to hear about the books and that's it. They don't want to hear it linked to real life things, or as a Christian, a lot of things obviously will come up that make me think of different things from the Bible, from faith, in my own life, whatever. And it's very hard for me to just talk about just the books alone without bringing in all that other stuff, I guess. Just talking about the book as a piece of art separate from everything else. And I have definitely not found my audience yet for that. In this vlog, I talk a little bit about women helping women and women feeling like they have to do it all on their own and not accepting help and not wanting to be a burden to other people and stuff. So if that is something you are interested in, please continue watching and like, subscribe, comment down below, share your thoughts and feelings on the discussion that I'm having. I love to have discussions, two-way conversations. I will be in the comments for sure, commenting and having dialogue with you if that is something you're interested in. Or you can even watch the video and let me know what I'm doing wrong to, not wrong, but maybe what's not attracting people. What can I do that's still me, but a little bit more attractive to a wider or more engaged audience? Let me know. I'm open to criticism, kind, constructive criticism. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyways, let's jump back into the past. Let's talk about Survive the Night. I know that is one of Riley Sager's books that most people did not jive with, so keep watching to see what my thoughts and feelings are. And my dog just slammed into you. Sorry. You're bumping my stuff. Look, say hi. Look over here. Say hi. That's Bowser. Say hi. That's Coda. And Peaches is ignoring me down there. Hi, my babies. And let's jump into the past. Talk about Survive the Night. And thank you so much if you do watch this video. Leave a little ghosty emoji for Summerween. And let me know if you participate in Summerween, if you've done it in the past, if you did it this year, if you've just heard about it and you missed it and you want to do it next year, let me know. And I will talk to you in another vlog very soon. Roll the tape. Let's go. Happy Summerween Day 2. It is Saturday today, and I'm just getting up, as you can see, and I'm gonna re-dye, add the pink back into this crazy mess of hair, and continue listening to Survive the Night. I have some thoughts about it. I will talk about those later when I'm ready, when I'm put together, but I am less than 2 hours in now, but hopefully I can get through more of it today. You're gonna dive in. Poutine. So what flavor are you trying, Sebastian?
Banana mango. Ooh, that is good.
Can you see me?
Oh my gosh.
Mine's chai.
Oh, I almost dropped that into poutine.
Nacho poutine.
How's yours?
Chai.
It's chai.
What is it? It's got good chai spice to it.
Oh, this is delicious.
Just chai latte milkshake, that's it.
Oh, I think you're one of these.
I was expecting it to look like that, but that's the Lotus cookie butter.
Yeah, that was the one I was gonna get, but I'm like, that might be too sweet. I'm gonna stop your video.
It's very sweet.
Jiggle. Jiggle. Look, it's even got like a jam on top.
Say my money don't wiggle wiggle.
My velvet cake don't wiggle, it jiggles.
So it is still day 2 of Summerween, and I have been listening to Survive the Night by Riley Sager. And I have been trying to write down all of my thoughts, my observations, what I think might be key plot points and stuff, because I am terrible at remembering all of this stuff on my own, and reading 2 to 3 Riley Sager books in a row in 1 week, it's gonna get all jumbled up in my brain. So I'm trying very hard to keep it as straight as I can. I haven't gotten to a lot more listening, unfortunately, today. It's been a little bit busy. You can see we went out on a date and stuff, me and my husband. So I haven't had a chance to get a lot of reading done, and I've also been trying to focus on editing. I was hoping to get a video out today, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So that's okay, that's fine. Push another day, we'll survive. So, talking about all of the Summerween books and stuff, I never know if I should add spoilers or not. And I'm always like trying to talk about my thoughts and my feelings and everything without giving away any spoilers on what's a spoiler, what's not a spoiler, how much do you want to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk and tell you all of my thoughts, all of my feelings, everything, and I will figure it out in editing. And if I do talk about spoilers, obviously I will put up a warning. So Survive the Night is about our main character, Charlie, and don't scratch my thing. We learned pretty early on that pretty early, because I'm not even like 2 hours into this book, or just 2 hours in. I think it's a 9-hour audiobook, that her college roommate has been killed by who they believe is this serial killer, the campus killer. And I think it says in my notes, Charlie met her roommate Maddie 3 years ago when they became dorm mates or whatever, roommates. And now that Maddie has died, Charlie is dealing with a lot of stress and guilt over that, feels that it is her fault that Maddie ended up going with this guy and was murdered. She feels that she abandoned Maddie and has this guilt over it, right? The whole synopsis, premise, plot of the book is that Charlie wants to go home. She wants to leave campus. She doesn't want to be here anymore. She's having a lot of time adjusting. It has been 2 months since Maddie died and wants to get home as soon as possible. She is dating this guy named Robbie and could wait for Robbie to take her home, but he can't leave until the weekend kind of thing, or he'd have to take time off from his job or whatever it is. And she wants to leave right now as soon as possible. So she's like, no, it's okay. I'm going to get this ride share type thing. It's a board at the college that people post if they're looking for a ride or if they're offering a ride. Like, hey, I'm leaving this day, going to this place. Anyone want to come split the gas with me? So she's going there to put up a flyer saying that she's looking for somebody to take her ASAP to Youngsville or something. So Charlie goes to put up this flyer and ends up talking to this guy, Josh, and he says, "Hey, I'm going here. When are you leaving?" She says, "As soon as possible." He says, "Cool, I'll give you a call." He calls her up a couple days later and he's like, "Yeah, let's go, let's do this. We have to leave at 9 p.m. because he says he had to finish his shift or whatever, and had originally told her that he worked as custodial staff at the university. And the reason why he is going home is because his dad has had a stroke, so he's quitting his job and going home to help his dad. And just looking for somebody to share the ride with so that he's not just stuck in these like bad negative thoughts, thinking of all the bad things that could happen with his dad. So the thing about Charlie is that she is an unreliable narrator because she is suffering with this condition that happened after the loss of her parents. Their funeral triggered it, I guess, this trauma that whenever she is in a high stress situation, when she's dealing with a lot of emotions all at once, is overwhelmed, stressed, especially on top of dealing with grief, she has these like episodes where her mind is basically playing a movie over top of reality. The psychiatrist ends up telling her that it is hallucinations, but she claims that she has always been able to tell when the hallucination has started and when it has finished, and she calls them movies in her mind because she is a big movie buff. After her parents passed away, her grandmother came to stay with her for a bit. She was already, I don't know how old she was, but she was old enough to be driving and stuff, so over 16, so didn't need a guardian the way younger kids would, but still needs somebody there, right? And in the midst of all the grief, her grandmother was a big movie buff and even tried to be an actress. And this takes place in 1991, this book. So her grandma tried to be an actress like in the 60s kind of thing. Her grandmother liked the movies that were taking place in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and had a lot of commentary on the actors and stuff because she was in that lifestyle for a short amount of time. Not very long, but it was a part of her history. And they spent obviously like nights and days just watching these movies, getting lost in the movies, and having that escapism from the horrible reality that they were going through. And her grandmother did say like grief is hard, especially in the very beginning, but it does in ways get better. It's not as heavy as it is in the beginning. To make a long story short, Charlie suffers with these hallucinations that started at her parents' funeral. After spending all this time with her grandmother and watching all these movies, it's like when she went to the funeral, it was very difficult, obviously, and there was a lot of emotion and grief, and I imagine just being overwhelmed with the mix of emotions and grief. And her brain took all of that and kind of played a movie over top of reality to make things a little bit more palpable. She mentioned asking her grandmother at the funeral, what was the song that organist played or whatever? What was the hymn? The grandmother was like, what organist? What pianist? What hymn? There wasn't any. And she was like, okay. And that's when it started. So she's an unreliable narrator because she believes she knows when this hallucination movie is starting and when it is finishing, because it's just a little different. You know, when they do like a flashback or a daydream or something in a movie, there's like a filter on it, right? It's a little bit different than the rest of the movie. It's like that for her. There's just like a filter over it, and she's realizing this isn't real right now, and she just has to let it play out. So I believe it was after the death of Maddie that Charlie ended up seeing a psychiatrist and was told that these movies are called hallucinations and was given these pills to help it. But for whatever reason, she hasn't had these pills in the last 3 days. So there's a few things that are making her an unreliable narrator. The movies in her mind, these hallucinations for one. 2, the grief of the loss of her best friend being murdered on campus by who they believe is a serial killer, and being off of her medication. So there's been a lot of hysteria and extra caution at the campus since these murders had started several years ago, with everyone, especially women, being told don't walk alone at night, stay in groups, don't go off with strangers, you know, basic safety advice for college students, as well as having self-defense classes being offered and giving everyone whistles as part of their safety. So I don't know about you, but I know for me that would make me it wouldn't make me paranoid, but a lot of things would be going through my mind if I was getting in a car with a stranger, like the case with Charlie. And also, Charlie has watched a lot of and loves Alfred Hitchcock. Clearly, right now is not the best time for me to be filming this because I'm too distracted by everything else I need to do. And I'm downstairs and something upstairs smashed and everything. But I just wanted to talk about like the paranoia of going out with a guy that you don't know into his vehicle to get a ride back home and all the things that are going through your mind. And you can kind of understand where she's coming from. But then you're also like, what's real and what's not because of these hallucinations that she's having. My question is she hallucinating things that this Josh guy is doing or saying, the way he's acting, the things that she's perceiving, are these hallucinations that she's having that are making her paranoid? Or is he using her hallucinations against her and telling her like, no, we didn't have that conversation. No, you didn't see this. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you were having one of your little movie moments there. None of that stuff happened. Is he just saying that to her to make her question herself? Because she's like, I always know when the movie starts and when it ends. But now you're telling me that I was having one of these hallucinations and nothing indicated to me that I was in one of these hallucinations or that one had just passed and ended or whatever. So I am wondering if she's actually having these hallucinations or not. What's real, what's not. And is he using that against her and making her feel crazy? Is he, what's the word? There's a word for it. So it is 11:34 p.m. on Summerween Day 3, and this is the first time I've started vlogging. I promised myself that I would be better at vlogging this readathon than I have been with other vlogs, especially readathons that have a start and end to them. And it's just been a bit of a busy weekend with my husband being home. So we've been doing a little bit more stuff that I don't normally get done when my husband is at work. So there's that. And then I spent all day today editing. I don't know why it's taking me like 12 hours to edit a 30-minute video, but that is very frustrating and I need to figure out my editing strategies, I guess. Anyways, I am going to listen to an hour or so of Survive the Night on audio while working on my cross stitch project, and I'm gonna kind of do it in the dark here in my little reading corner, but I do need light for cross stitching, but I might just use my ring light for that. And I will talk more tomorrow about my thoughts on the book and just try to be more on top of vlogging this week. So I've just listened to this part where Charlie and Josh have stopped at a diner. And now I can understand a little bit more why people are thinking that Charlie is making stupid decisions and why people are upset at Charlie for this. Because, like I was just saying, some of the stuff that Charlie is doing and thinking can be excused because of her age and the trauma that she's been through. But she's had this chance now to escape from Josh, a chance to escape this bad situation and be free from this guy. In this diner, before they leave, there's like 3 instances that have given her an escape route, including Josh himself saying, you don't trust me, I'm just gonna leave you here, you can find a different way home. Like, I don't want to drive with you anymore. He himself is giving her an out. And then she's in the bathroom after the waitress has spilled hot tea on her coat because the waitress, Marge, has sensed that there's something wrong. And so she spilt the tea in order to get Charlie into the bathroom and be able to talk to her and ask if she's okay, and says, if you want to stay at the restaurant, you're free to stay here for as long as you need to. And then Marge leaves and Charlie is talking to herself and trying to make a decision. And Marge had said something to her in the bathroom saying that women need to stick together and women need to help other women. And those who ignore other women and don't try to help them in situations where they could help them, there's a special place in hell for them. And so Charlie takes that and thinks if she doesn't try to do something to stop Josh, knowing who Josh is, believing that he is the campus killer, that she's being one of those women that ignores other women and chooses not to help them. So Charlie has decided that she is going to stop Josh somehow, that she is going to be the one to take him down. She can't trust that the cops will come or that Marge will be able to help her or anything like that. She has to do it all on her own. She is going to be the savior. So that is definitely frustrating, and I still, because of Charlie's age and everything, I do understand the thinking behind it a little bit. That thought that Not even so much that you're invincible and nothing bad is going to happen to you, but more like I'd rather die trying to save other women than live in the misery that I'm living in now and knowing I let a serial killer go to kill somebody else when I could have prevented it. But it's also frustrating because it's like you could go to the cops and get help from professionals who are trained to take down these kind of people. So she knowingly and willingly gets back in the car with somebody that she believes killed her best friend and 3 other women. 2 other women? Anyway, yeah, that is definitely frustrating, and I can understand people disliking the choices that Charlie makes in that diner situation. So I think I'm going to listen to just a little bit more because it is coming on 1 o'clock in the morning and I need to go to bed. But I am now over 50% of the way. I'm like 62% of the way through the book now. So I want to get as much done as possible and start middle of the night tomorrow. Okay, also, why are people so terrible when it comes to getting help? Like, Charlie is in a rest stop bathroom and wants to get away from this Josh guy. And this woman enters the bathroom and catches Charlie in one of the stalls. And Charlie mentions, like, I'm not comfortable with the guy I'm driving with. I need to get out of here. And the woman in the bathroom is just like, you're crazy. You're drunk or high or something. And leaves and tells Josh, standing outside, that girl needs help. Like, she's out of her mind. She's drunk or something. And it's like, this girl is asking you for your help, another woman, and you're just brushing her off like this? Like, that is absolutely crazy. And now we're getting a chapter from the boyfriend, Robbie's perspective, and he's calling the cops in the town that Charlie is in with Josh. They stopped just off the highway at a diner to get something to eat. And Robbie calls the cops in that town, and a dispatcher picks up and is like, your girlfriend is with this guy, did she say that she's in trouble? And he's like, not explicitly. They had like a code word if she was in trouble. And she's like, okay, like, people driving on the road, they stop at diners to eat, rest, whatever, it's normal. And he's like, well, I think she's in danger. And the dispatcher cop lady is just like, okay, we'll try and send someone over there to check in on it. But no one is taking this seriously at all. So that is really frustrating. I know one thing that people did not like about this story is that the main character kept making stupid decisions, and I can forgive her a little bit more because of her mental state, dealing with the grief of the loss of her best friend and these hallucinations that she has, and also just being young and naive, and you haven't learned to trust your gut yet at that age. And you do try to talk yourself out of things and rationalize things. And you see these giant red flags happening and you're just like, no, I'm looking too much into it. I'm being paranoid, whatever. So just her mental state and her age and everything like that, I can forgive her stuff a little bit more. But all the people around her that she's interacting with are just like, you're fine. You're crazy. You're drunk. Whatever. Like, what's your problem? And that's frustrating. So I just wanted to make a couple of observations here before I forget them. One, Charlie's friend and college roommate Maddie, who was killed, seems too eccentric to be true. Her voice, her accent, the way that she talks and dresses and everything just seems a little too over the top. She seems more like the kind of character that you would conjure up in your imagination, being somebody who is a movie buff from that time period. You know, the 40s, 50s, 60s. So part of me is like, does Maddie even exist? Or is she just a figment of Charlie's imagination? But also, how are other people talking about her and knowing about her death and funeral and stuff? So maybe not. I was right about Josh manipulating her and gaslighting her and using her condition against her. I'm going to be talking about spoilers with Survive the Night. So far, with 2 hours into this book, we only get Charlie's perspective, but we do have one very short couple-minute chapter with Josh's perspective, which is interesting because why? The only thing that we gained from his perspective was learning that basically he is who Charlie thinks that he is, and he was manipulating her and gaslighting her and stuff like I said that he was. But that would have been a much bigger reveal and twist had it come later on as a revelation that Charlie gets during like the climax of the story. It just doesn't make any sense to have his point of view there. I'm not hating the book overall, but his little chapter was just kind of pointless and didn't come as a big shocking twist or reveal because I already guessed it before he said anything. And I think even having guessed it, I think it still would have had a bigger impact if Charlie figured it out later some other way. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I'm gonna get back to listening and cross stitching. So it is 1:34 a.m. and I'm in bed and ready to go to sleep, but just ended on an actual like twist in the story that I did not see coming, with going back to the diner and our waitress Marge. So yeah, I was taken by surprise by that twist. So that is good, because it's never fun when you predict all of the twists. Happy day 4 of Summerween. My kids are arguing upstairs, so you can probably hear them, but I just want to do a quick update. I officially finished Survive the Night today. Well, this evening, my husband got home at 7 and I had just under like 20 minutes left, so I finished it before 7:30. And now I want to listen to Final Girls, but Survive the Night was a 9-hour audiobook and Final Girls is a 12-hour audiobook. And I always mention this, I listen at roughly 1.5 times speed. I don't usually go higher than that, but we'll see how the narrator is. Maybe I can bump it up to like 1.75 even, because then I want to physically read Middle of the Night. I would get an audiobook for Middle of the Night, but it is the book club pick for July, and being a brand new Riley Sager, the wait time on it is a lot longer, so I'll probably just be able to read it physically, and then I'll be able to take notes like directly inside the book because it's for the book club. So Riley Sager always manages to pull off at least one twist in a book that I don't see coming. I think the one that took me off guard the most was Lock Every Door, which I think I read last summer. The first Riley Sager book I ever read was The Last Time I Lied, and I can't tell you what happened in that book, how it ended. I remember that it took place at a camp, and there was it 4 girls? And 3 of them went missing, were killed, something. And the 4th one was going back after 20 years of not being there kind of thing, and going back to do art or something, to be like a camp counselor, and also wanted to solve the mystery of her friend's disappearance or murder, whatever it was that happened. But I don't remember all of the twists in that one, all of the reveals. I don't remember exactly what happened or how it wrapped up. I read it a few years ago, so that is part of why I don't remember. I just remember the scene of her swimming like underwater, and it was for a long enough amount of time that you would start to panic that you couldn't breathe, and trying to count the seconds to see if you could make it to the area to pop up to get to like this cave. That's all I remember. And then I read Home Before Dark, and I remember that one a little bit better. That's the one where she inherits a house. Her parents lived in this house when she was younger, but they only spent like 3 days there or something, 4 days, and left, and she's not sure exactly what happened while they're at that house, but her dad wrote this book that talked about their time at the house, and it's kind of like how much of this book was real, how much of it was falsified, how much was just added for dramatic effect kind of thing. And she was a little bit unsure, but she'd never been back to this house since then. And now as an adult, she does like restoration construction kind of work. So she's like, I'm gonna go, my dad has passed on, I'm going to go check out this house and fix it up and sell it, I believe. And there was still a guy there, I think, that was still maintaining things at the house, doing like landscaping stuff and just keeping things in order. I think they had maybe a cleaner or something coming in, just basic maintenance, but that was it. So she was gonna go and restore the house and everything, and then creepy things start happening and you don't know if it's paranormal or not. She'll turn the light off in the living room and go upstairs and then come back down and the light's back on kind of thing, and there's like all these creaks and noises and there's like a secret doorway somewhere. I can't remember exactly the conclusion of that one either. I think it's one of those cases where it's leaning towards paranormal, but they have an actual explanation for it. That was not paranormal, but I do remember enjoying that one. I know that one people really like. And then I read Lock Every Door, which had a twist I did not see coming at all. I could have not figured that one out. That is not something that comes to my mind when I'm reading these kinds of books. So that one was really good. I do remember that. That was good for the twist part of it, because I had no way of guessing what it was. So this one, Survive the Night, I'm gonna go and watch the reviews, actually, the book club reviews for it. I'm gonna watch, I think Gabby did it and Kayla did it. So I'll watch their book club because I know it was not a favorite of people's and I want to find out why. And then I will comment on that. I'll share my thoughts on their comments on it. But he always pulls off a twist I'm not expecting. If there's 5 different twists in it and I predict 4 of them, there's always one that will catch me off guard. And last year it was the only one left. And that one I listened to completely as an audiobook. All the other ones I had read physically or like as an ebook or whatever, but still without the audio. And I find when I listen to books like this that are suspense, thriller, mystery, there's some kind of twist that's going to happen in the story. And you kind of had to be paying attention to all the little clues and the foreshadowing and stuff. When I listen to it as an audiobook, it's not that I'm not getting the information. It's not that I'm not getting the same story. But the challenge with audiobooks is that your mind can wander, or even if you miss like 10 seconds, you think, oh, that's fine, it doesn't matter. But there could have been one little hint there that you just didn't quite pick up on, or you just get distracted by life, right? You're listening to the audiobook in the car and you have to make a left-hand turn and your mind is more focused on your driving and your safety, of course, and making that turn. And you hear the information, but it doesn't quite stick, right? I don't usually try to predict things either. Like even with a cozy mystery or something, I'm not actively trying to solve the case along with them. I'm just along for the ride. But sometimes with thrillers and stuff, especially after you've read so many of them, your brain just goes to certain things. Even when I'm reading a non-thriller mystery or watching a movie or something, you know, your brain just kind of automatically thinks like, that guy's a bad guy, but really he's just the love interest. Or maybe he's not the one that they're supposed to end up with, but he's not a great guy, but he's also not a serial killer kind of thing. He's just not a good date, right? So I will start to think of what the twist could be, but I'm not actively trying to solve the case or figure out what the twist is, right? The only one left I listened to as an audiobook, and I remember when we got to one of the reveals, it did catch me off guard, and I was surprised, and I had to stop the audiobook and pause and think like, okay, all this information we've gotten up till this point is actually this way, right? Like, you think it's this way, but it's actually this way. And I had to like sit and process all the information again. And I thought that was really good. Like, I enjoyed that book. And like I said, even if I could have predicted a couple of the things, I wasn't able to predict all of it, right? And I think like with this book that I just listened to, Survive the Night, I was talking about her movies in her mind, her hallucinations, and Josh using that against her to trick her into thinking she had this hallucination when she really didn't. And I think Riley Sager isn't a stupid writer. I think he knows that that is super obvious, especially to a more seasoned thriller reader. If this is the first thriller you ever picked up, you might not think of those things. And kind of like I always talk about the book 3 by Ted Dekker had a plot twist in it that blew me out of the water. I was completely taken aback. Huge shocking moment. And I made my husband, there was actually a movie made of it. And my husband wasn't really a big reader. So I was like, we gotta watch the movie. This is amazing. You are never gonna believe this twist. If I read that now, I read that about 15 years ago. If I read it today, I'd be like, this is it. And I would have been correct. I would have guessed the twist right away. 2 or 3 years ago, I read that Bates Motel one. What's that one called? It's like the classic. What is it from? Like the 60s or something? I've never seen the movie. I've never watched like the Bates, Norma Bates or Bates Motel or anything like that. I had no idea what the twist was. And on I remember looking and it was like page 40 or something. I was like, this is the twist. And it was. And it got revealed like near the end of the book. And I was like, it's so obvious. But at that time, that would have been huge, right? When that book was written, it would have been new and shocking. She mentions this book, this movie, in the book. And for whatever reason, it's not called The Bates Motel though. What is it? But I was like, it's so obvious. So with the book 3 by Ted Dekker, I loved it at the time. It was a favorite at the time. Now, I still think Ted Dekker is a great thriller writer. I really love his stuff. He does fantasy as well, and I don't hate the fantasy. but the thriller stuff I like more. So yeah, if you've never read Riley Sager and you don't really read thrillers, and this is the first one you've read, some of the things might not have been obvious to you, but it was obvious to me just because I read a lot of thrillers. But I think like Riley Sager knows this, and he's putting it in there, and you're kind of like, I was talking about how there's this chapter by Josh, and I was like, what was the point of that chapter? All it did was tell us basically what we already knew. It just confirmed my suspicions. And I think Riley Sager's like, yeah, you think you know, and I did make it really obvious because I know you're going to jump to those conclusions, but surprise, it's actually something else. So I think Riley Sager's pretty good at pulling off surprises, especially if you're only reading his books once a year when they come out and reading a lot of different things in between. I think you can still enjoy his works. Obviously, you're not going to like all of them. They're not all going to be hits for you or whatever if you do enjoy Riley Sager to begin with. Obviously, I like him enough to keep up with the books and want to read them for the live shows. Even if we weren't doing them for book clubs, I still would probably pick it up. I just might not pick it up as a new book. And the only one left I managed to get in time to listen to for the live show, I believe. I caught it live, but the other ones like The House Across the Lake and stuff, I still haven't even read because by the time I found out that they were going to be picks for the Literally Dead book club and I went to go like reserve it from the library, it was like a 50-week wait, and I'm like, I'm never gonna get to it, and it did not come in time as a physical copy, an audio copy, an ebook, whatever. So that's why I'm so far behind. Anyways, that's all I wanted to share for now. It's already 10 p.m. on the 8th of July, so I'm going to do my Instagram post that I have to do for today for Summerween, and I'm going to put in the audiobook, continue working on the never-ending cross stitch that is ruining my life, and possibly do some organizing around my book corner down here. And at some point watch a video about why people don't like Survive the Night. Do you ever read a book and you just love the book? If it's a book that's supposed to be thrilling and surprising and have these twists, you were taken aback by the twists, you were surprised by them, you were caught off guard, whatever it is, and then you're listening to other people talk about it and talking about spoilers or whatever, and they're like, it was so predictable and it was so obvious and nothing surprised me whatsoever, and you're just like, now I feel so dumb because I was surprised by it or I was entertained by it. I can definitely feel that way at times, and when you join these online book clubs, you will see typically a wide range of ratings and opinions on it. But even if it's like majority of the people don't like the book and thought it was predictable, you'll have the few people that were like 5 stars, I loved it. Reading is a little bit subjective. All these different people all reading the same book have different opinions on it for a lot of different reasons. But part of that is that we all have our own backgrounds, our own experiences, things we've lived through personally in our lives, and then we all have our own reading journey. Like I was saying earlier, if you've never read a thriller before, or not that many, and then you pick up a thriller that most people who are avid thriller readers are reading, and they're like, yeah, it was predictable, but you were taken off guard. Well, yeah, because you don't read that many of them, so that makes sense, right? So I always have to remember to, like, it's not a bad thing to like a thriller that other people aren't liking, or any book for that matter. It doesn't matter. Anything. A certain music group, a band, a singer, a movie, a book, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? If you like it, you like it. That's fine. So I am watching the book troupe live show for Survive the Night, and I just wanted to kind of give my opinions and thoughts about it as they are, so that I remember what I want to say to respond to what they're saying. So basically, they were saying that the main character was boring, like they didn't care about her. She wasn't that interesting, and she made a lot of stupid mistakes, and no girl would ever do this. And I was saying that I forgive Charlie for some of the decisions she was making, for the extreme grief she is under, the way her brain is processing that grief and working through it. And I think this book really does, on another level, deal with grief and the way different people handle it, especially in the case of somebody dying at the hands of a serial killer that hasn't been caught and gotten justice yet. You're angry. Within your grief, there's a lot of anger there, and you want to find justice. And we see how that plays out with the characters in this book, along with Charlie's grief being more directed at herself and blaming herself for leaving Maddie that day outside the pub. And that was the last time she saw her. And they'd gotten in a big fight, and she was like, you're a terrible friend, F you. And that was the last thing she said to her best friend before she died. So there's a lot of self-blame there and guilt. I also wanted to talk about how at the beginning of this book, I was thinking about how you see these stories where, you know, this girl gets in a car with a stranger or a near stranger and all this bad stuff happens and the stranger's a terrible person. And I read a book a couple years ago called Five Total Strangers, which was the same kind of idea. They're at an airport and everybody is snowed in, and these people are like, that's it, I'm renting a car and I'm driving to this place, and these 5 different people all happen to be going to the same place, and this one person's very like charismatic, talkative, makes friends easily, and somehow ropes them all together to rent this vehicle. And a couple of them like know each other from other things or whatever, but for the most part they're 5 strangers, right? And stuff goes wrong, you know, whatever. I can't remember all of it, but it's a thriller as well. And it's fairly short. I think it's like 6 hours or something. But you know, like, somebody in the car is not trustworthy, but everybody has reasons that you shouldn't trust them, right? Of course. So I was just thinking about, like, with this book, it's obvious that Josh, the stranger, is a bad guy. Obviously, that's what happens when you get in a car with a stranger. And I'm like, it would be interesting to see a book where the girl gets into the car with this guy who's a stranger, and there is some doubt there. There is a little bit of that, is this guy really who he says he is? Should I trust him? Maybe I shouldn't trust him. Should I get out of this car? But something else ends up happening. There's an outside threat that the two in the car need to battle somehow, and the guy does turn out to be an overall good guy. That the suspicions are explained away in a satisfying way that makes sense. And he's not actually a bad guy, and they can work together. I was like, that's what I want to see in these stories. So that actually, in some ways, that kind of does happen in this book. I said I wanted to talk about spoilers, and I was going to talk about spoilers, but you find out that Josh, he's not exactly a good guy, but he's not the bad guy that you think he is. He's a bounty hunter, and he was hired to get Charlie and bring her to this other person. And he had to lie and say things to get her in the car, to get her there, and had to be deceitful and had to use her mental illness against her to get her there. But in the end, he was like, that was wrong and I shouldn't have done that, but, you know, I was getting paid like $20,000 for this. And she's like, what's real? What isn't real? What, like, with everything you told me, what can I trust, right? So he wasn't a good guy because he tricked her and was taking her to somebody that they told him that they just wanted to talk to her, and he believed it, right? And he's like, you weren't supposed to get hurt, this wasn't supposed to happen. But he also like went after her to save her as well, make sure that she was okay. So he is a good guy as well. And the very, very ending I thought was interesting, with how you learn how the story is actually being told to you. I thought was really cool and really fit with the character of Charlie and who she ends up with. I was like, I don't know if I could end up with this guy who's kidnapped me and also saved my life. It's an interesting relationship. I'm not saying no woman would ever get in a relationship with this Josh guy after everything that happened in the relationship Josh and Charlie have together over this one night. And I was thinking about that too. It's like called Survive the Night. And like books like The Last Word and No Exit by Taylor Adams and this one, Survive the Night. I feel like there's another one. They all happen over one night. And I'm like, that's exhausting. That's a lot to happen. I'm not saying it's unrealistic for it to happen. Just, it's a lot. And it's exhausting. And it's hard to believe so much can happen in one night. And I know that it can. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the ending. It was interesting anyways. But I'm going to keep watching this for a little bit longer and come back in with my thoughts. On the live show, they are also talking about how exhausting it was to be in Charlie's head. And I could definitely see that. Yeah, for sure. But a lot of people are saying that they didn't like the ending because it was predictable. And I was like, I did not predict all that was going to happen at the end. I was taken off guard by it. So I don't know what that says about me, but I liked it. Anyways, so they are talking about spoilers now. So this is definitely spoiler-filled territory here. And they were saying that there is a serial killer going around, and he strikes, like, the first time was like 4 years ago, and then 2 years ago, and then we know at least 2 months ago. I can't remember if there was a fourth in there, but he's not, I mean, it's scary and tense, and you should always be careful, of course, but he's not hitting, like, really frequently. But she just felt like she desperately had to get home and didn't want to wait for her boyfriend to drive her because he couldn't take time off work or whatever at that point. So she's like, I'm just gonna get a ride with a stranger. And they're like, no woman would ever do this. No girl would do this, no matter what. Like, this is crazy. Why would she do that? And people were saying that the big reveal is that the boyfriend is actually the campus killer, Robbie. She's been dating him for how long now? Yeah, no idea. And that was a surprising twist to me. Everyone is saying, like, it's so predictable. In these kind of books, there's only so many characters, so it has to be one of them. So you have your main character, Charlie, and then you have Josh, who is the stranger in the car. And then there's Robbie, there's Maddie, who's died, and the only other person you really run into is Marge at the diner. So it's like, well, the serial killer has to be one of these people. And I guess my thought, why I wasn't thinking Robbie at all, because everyone is like, Robbie gives off total Ted Bundy vibes and it has to be Robbie. And why I wasn't thinking Robbie is because I felt like, yes, Riley Sager was pushing you to believe that Josh was the serial killer, first of all. But I also felt like if he wasn't the killer, that wasn't necessarily the mystery. Like, for me, the point of the book was that she got into the car with a stranger and something happens. This person is a bad person and she has to survive and get away from them, right? And when it turned out that Josh wasn't the bad person that we thought he was, and it was another person, and Josh was just the bounty hunter, the one to go get her and bring her to the bad person, like, I knew that person wasn't the serial killer, but felt like I wasn't trying to figure out who the serial killer was. It's just like, oh, the serial killer's not Josh. We still don't know who it is, but that's not the mystery. The mystery is her, or not the mystery, but the thrilling part, the survival part of it is her surviving this night and getting away from this person who does want to harm her, regardless of whether or not they are the serial killer. So I guess I wasn't trying to figure out who the serial killer was once it was determined that it was not actually Josh. So maybe the boyfriend being the serial killer should have been more obvious, but I wasn't trying to figure it out either. Maybe if I stopped to think, like, who could the serial killer be, then it might have been more obvious. It might have come to me, but it did not in this case. And yes, the whole reason why, like, Charlie going with a stranger, knowing that her best friend had just died 2 months ago at the hands of the serial killer, so we know that he was more recently active and everything, it is a little unbelievable. And somebody in the live chat from the video posted that people do stupid things when they are suffering through trauma, and that is very true. But Gabby's also talking about authors using mental illness and things like trauma and grief to drive the plot. So it's kind of questionable as well, but that's kind of what I chalked it up to, is she's being irrational, again, because of her age and because of her grief and the trauma that she's experienced. Yeah, those are my thoughts so far. So there's this scene in the diner where Charlie is sitting in the booth with Josh, and the waitress, Marge, is feeling like something's wrong and Charlie's not comfortable. And Marge knocks over the cup of tea that Charlie has and spills it on her so that Charlie has to go to the bathroom and clean up. And then Marge follows her in there and talks to Charlie and says, like, are you okay? Do you need help? And on the live show, they're talking about how it's so stupid because Charlie's like, no, I'm okay. I'm fine. I don't need any help. And she gives no indication whatsoever that she's in distress, that she does not trust the guy that she is driving with or sitting with in this booth, and that she does want help. And I agree, like, it is kind of dumb that Charlie doesn't take that moment to be like, yes, I need help, please help me. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense that she doesn't actually take that opportunity to get the help, like I said before. But also, it's like a societal thing that women don't ask for help. Women don't need help with anything in life. We always just have to say, like, yeah, I'm okay, I'm fine, I can handle it. And I have, like, posted things before on Facebook just being like, oh, how did you handle this situation or that situation with your children or whatever. And I have had women from my family post things like, I did it on my own, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, like, I've had family say things like, I did this by myself, or like as a married couple, we did this, we didn't have any help with moving our house or whatever. And it's like just this mentality of you have to be strong, you have to be independent, you shouldn't be asking for help. And I just think like, if you were in a situation and you did not receive help and you had to pull up your bootstraps and do it yourself, you think you would understand how hard that is and want to be more willing to help somebody else that is now in the same situation or a similar situation, because you know what it's like and how hard that struggle is. But the mentality I've encountered is just like, no, good luck, you're on your own. Yeah, there is a bit of that thought of, I don't want to bother other people with my issues. And that's just, it's so toxic. And if you're in a situation that you need help, that you cannot get out of, that you are scared to leave a situation like an abusive relationship or something, get help. There's no shame in that. Stupid bra. There's no shame in asking for help and getting help. The way I see it, I've never been one of those people who struggles with asking for help. And I kind of see it as, if I saw somebody else in this situation and I was able to help, would I offer to help them? If I am willing to help somebody else in that way, I should also be willing to accept help when I need it. And also, there are times where I might need help and I'm not able to directly pay that person back in some way. Like maybe not actually with money, but like tonight I'll watch your kids, tomorrow you watch my kids, kind of like even it out right away. But in the future, I can help somebody else, like the whole pay it forward thing, right? So would I be willing to help somebody else in this situation that I currently need help in? And I know in the future, sometime when I can help and when I'm able to help, I will, right? I think like, let's not be ashamed of asking for help if we need help. And let's not shame people for asking for help. And if you can't help them, not that you just don't want to, but you actually can't help them, that's okay. Like, sometimes you can't help. You know, another time you can help, right? Your chance to help will come up again in the future. It's fine. But yeah, I don't know what else I'm trying to say about this, but that's all I want to say. Just the idea of Marge asking Charlie, are you okay? And Charlie being like, I'm fine. I feel like that's a condition that I know I feel like that. I have to say like, I'm okay. It's fine, because I don't want to bother this waitress at the diner with my problems. But if you are actually in a dangerous situation like what Charlie's in, most of us are probably not in a car with a stranger, but even if it is your spouse or your partner or a best friend or something, and you've gotten into this fight and you're just not feeling safe and comfortable at that moment, you know, it's okay if somebody says like, do you need help? It's okay to say like, yeah, I need a ride somewhere. I'm not comfortable being with this person right now. And it's a little different now with cell phones and everything versus in 1991, but still, it's okay to say, I'm in a dangerous situation and I need help. It's one thing not to want to bother this stranger waitress person with your, I'm just having a bad day and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed and I want to cry, so I'm in the bathroom just trying to get it together. Like, I can understand not wanting to bother somebody with that. Like, it's like, I don't know you, I'm fine, don't worry about it, versus I'm in danger. And there's also a lot of times when Charlie kind of goes through her mind about, if I run out of here like yelling and screaming, this guy's trying to kill me, he's the campus killer or whatever, even if it turns out that she's wrong about that and he's not the killer or whatever and she makes a fool of herself, it's better to be safe than sorry, right? It's better to look like a fool and like you're being super paranoid and being safe than trying to be polite and not make a fool out of yourself and get yourself caught in a dangerous situation. So now they're just like wrapping up. Well, there's still like 14 minutes left, but they're kind of getting into the point of the live show where they're just talking about other media that compares to this, comp titles, other books and stuff that have similar vibes and storylines and stuff. So I'm just going to wrap up this part of my talking because it's already long enough. And I am going to finish watching this and go get ready for bed because it's after 1 in the morning. It's 1:58 a.m. So I'm going to go get ready for bed and listen to a little bit more of Final Girls. I will update more with my thoughts on Final Girls.